like if you lose them, they're biodegradable. So Mert will be really happy, and they're very soft.
I was playing Amgar once, and I saw somebody with like this. It's almost like a foam clown nose and a rubber band.
Yeah, I've seen those too.
Like it's a little missile.
Our game also uses Nerf.
Yeah, we do Nerf guns at our game too. You're not allowed to mod the Nerf gun to do any like crazy rate of fire. You're only allowed to do 6 shots at a time, and you gotta like be really careful when you hit someone in the face.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're allowed to do Nerf.
So with shields, real quick, let me show up real quick. Dystopia, you do not need padding for because shield bash is illegal. You cannot, when you're fighting someone, you can't be like, ha, ha. No, you gotta keep it close to your chest. But there are games like Canard where shield bash is legal, so I can,
I'm pretty sure shield bash is also legal at Amgar.
You need foam padding for those though, and they're very much restricted on like how much.
Summer of 2019, when I first went to a couple of LARP events at Waypoint, one of the guys that also was a staff, his daughter, she was 12, her name was Chloe. She was this unicorn princess, and she did everything with her plots, just like what we did and everything. But she also had to like wear like her one thing to like, hey, don't you get this?
LARPs in the US are no alcohol.
No alcohol, no drugs, no nothing.
No substances. There are things called wet LARPs. I've been to one. Basically, you can have alcohol. You're not supposed to do any sort of combat after.
A lot of parlor LARPs.
A lot of parlor LARPs will have
like you're allowed to drink.
I will say I'm very wary of wet LARPs because that's the only time I've ever had an ambulance on site because people do not always
Follow the rules.
Yes. And people can get very emotional while fighting. And if they're drunk, they can sometimes forget safety.
The only LARPs I've seen that have, like, you're allowed to drink alcohol, I was with you're not doing any combat, so.
You want to demonstrate some combat with me? You're not going to go for the groin or the feet or the hands.
Okay.
I mean, some LARPs, the hands will be fine, but like ours, we avoid hands.
So it's fine.
Yeah. So, shields are kind of hard to fight against in different systems because if he's hitting my shield, I'm not going to take damage. But guns in our game, they go through the shields. So if you're getting hit like 5, 5, 5, and you're like, ha, I blocked up my shields. No, the heck you didn't. But when I'm fighting my shields, I'm never going to like push out against like that. I'm not going to English. I'm going to put it close to my body.
Anchor?
Yep. And with LARPs, you're going to go, yeah, some are King's Rules where you lose a limb immediately.
Okay.
Our game, you just take damage.
Oh.
So,
I have a health bar.
Yeah, you have a health bar.
Okay.
So let's say, I mean, that's called King's Rules. When you get hit and you lose a limb, some games do that. Ours, depending on what level your character is and what strain you started out with, let's say you have 15 hit points. That's a pretty standard one. If each hit is 1, right, you don't want to get hit 15 times.
Oh.
But there's also skills in our game. So if I do say, mangle limb, your limb is now mangled, you might have the skill avoid, and you can be like, avoid! Even if you get hit, you're like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's not actually real.
It doesn't matter, I avoided it. Even though you saw me get hit, I avoided it.
It was an after image. I watch a lot of Dragon Ball.
Exactly. When you're fighting in our LARP too, you never want to hit the same spot. Like, you're not going to seesaw. You're not going to be like, 1, 1, 1. Like, you're not going to do that. Okay. You're going to hit 3 different targets. Like, you can do this, that's fine. But you're not going to seesaw. You're not going to stab.
Stab.
No. I did stab a little bit with a knife in Canard, but like that, it was a different LARP. Different LARPs will have different LARPs.
It was a different time, a different world back then.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Let's see. Like, different, want to try the shields?
Sure. I tried to get my hand through early.
Okay, yeah, you
It's
can
hard
do
to
that.
this one up.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to hold just the leather part and just do it easily. We'll just ignore that. Yeah, there you go. So when you're fighting with shields, my only advice there is like, obviously, you can't do that's illegal. But what you're gonna try and do is you're gonna try and fake them out. So look at I can go for his feet all day long. I recommend it.
Okay. Break his ankles.
Even better if you have a friend, because that friend can get behind, and while you're like distracting them, they're like, pa pa pa, and then can run.
Oh, I've been stabbed in my
But
back.
shields tend to be the strongest if you're not fighting against a shield user. Yeah, I love just doing the as like an intimidating war drum. It's so satisfying.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you. A lot of time.
Other nerds happy.
They write a rule book usually. They're like, they get play testers are like, all right guys, let's try this system, and then,
So I'm actually like writing a LARP right now. I just randomly had a manic moment and decided I want to make my own LARP. So I started basically just slowly, I'm writing a book essentially. Like I'm making up a world, I'm making up like the kind of stories I want to tell, the experiences I want to show people. And I'm eventually gonna like write a whole rule book, gonna have some people play test it, and then I will probably, the biggest thing for a LARP to start is you gotta look for a site.
yeah.
Like I need a campsite, or sometimes we do like national parks or nature reserves, or like for parlor LARPs you gotta find like a banquet hall or some sort of room. I played Vampire in the upstairs rented out room of a bar. That was interesting.
That sounds fun.
So it's a whole process. Basically, one person has to be willing to invest quite a bit of money to get a LARP started.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, I want to be clear, we're not really like making money off of this. Like, you have to pay to attend LARP, but it's basically just a sustenance thing to keep the LARP running.
Yeah.
None
Most of it goes
of
to
us are
props.
rolling in money or like profiting off of you. It's an entirely volunteer-ran process. So the money that people pay us for attendance, it goes into props, it goes into us making another monster suit, it goes into the makeup for NPCs,
Site rental.
the site rental, all of that.
Yeah. And some LARPs are completely volunteer, so the staff won't even make any money, like even like a dollar, which is really like people treat them like they're getting paid for it. So be very nice to your staff, even if they're getting paid or they're not, because either way they're working a lot for a little, or nothing.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff for our LARP comes out of like my pocket, honestly.
Yep. But we love our LARP. That's why we invest in it.
That's why
I love doing it.
I enjoy like helping other people have a good time.
Oh yeah.
Like if my players are happy, then I'm happy. I don't care that I genuinely spent $50 on those toy fish.
I remember that. Amazing. We're really big in immersion, so we really love our props. And we have a pretty good prop setup. I'm very proud of it, especially for a new LARP. We're only like a year, like real life a year
A bit over a year.
old. But different LARPs will have different budgets, and we'll have different prop levels and immersion to reflect that. It happens. Yeah?
All these different LARPs that you've been talking about, like the Hobbit one and just a couple other ones, are these like all like local in Michigan that you've mentioned?
So these are, a lot of them are all over the place. I think the Hobbit one is in New Jersey.
But there was someone talking about a Hobbit LARP in Michigan. Like, I don't know if it really got anything beyond the talking stage, but even the talking stage excites me. I can list out some of the Michigan ones I know of, if that helps you. Like, Canard is one in Milan. It's the easy access one that's like $20 a weekend, fantasy, like mid-level fantasy, orcs, elves, that kind of thing. Waypoint is a kind of a free-for-all, and I love it for that. Like, I've seen pirates and ninjas and whatever, because the whole plot is like portals from different universes opened up into one place. So you can kind of go freestyle with it, which is cool. It's almost too freestyle for my menu, but I still think it's fun.
It's Fortnite.
It is, it's freestyle. There obviously are Dystopia Rising is in Battle Creek. There is, Southwest Alliance, I want to say, is one. It's a fantasy one. There's also like a LARPing.org that shows up. And there's in fact a Michigan group called Michigan LARPers that advertises LARP all the time. And I can look it up right now.
I mean, since Canada is just upper Michigan, if you guys are willing to just swim across that river, there's a couple of LARPs in southern Ontario. There is one called Altered that is literally an isekai anime. Your character falls through from the real world into this fantasy world with like fae and monsters and stuff.
Oh.
I love that LARP because the whole premise is you just show up as a normal person. So you don't need any costuming, nothing. You're just average Joe who fell into a portal off the street and now you're in fantasy world. And then you kind of just build your character and your costume as your character gets adjusted to living in their crazy new world.
Bless.
We also have another zombie LARP in like actually not far out from Windsor. It's called Z World. It's a more freestyle and genre bending than Dystopia Rising. Like they're fighting like Egyptian gods or something who got resurrected as zombies.
Looking up, there's Shifted Lands and Holly, and I just know it's fantasy. I don't know too much about it, but I know people that play it. Carps is also in Holly. Let's see.
And I do believe there is a local vampire LARP here in Detroit.
Yeah, I think there is. I don't quite know what it's called though.
It's called, they're not called MES anymore. I don't know what they're called now, but there is a vampire LARP.
If you look up Vampire LARP Michigan, I have a feeling you'll probably find it. They're pretty good at getting on that. There's also like a really expensive, but like it's a cinematic LARP, and it's like it takes place on like a battleship, but it's like $500. But it's also supposed to be like one of those like really premium LARPs. I've only ever done a Blockbuster LARP once.
Yeah, so there's these, we haven't really talked about.
We haven't talked about
But
Blockbuster.
there are LARPs called Blockbuster LARPs, or like premium LARPs, and these are, it's basically an entire vacation.
Yeah.
Like, they do them in Europe mostly. Like, if you've heard of like New World Magiscola, which is basically the Harry Potter LARP, where you fully get to be like going to Hogwarts for a weekend. Or there's a Witcher LARP too, where you get to be in The Witcher, and it's in Poland. Those LARPs, you usually don't get to make your own character. You get a character assigned to you. So you pay upwards of $1,000 for it, and they last not a weekend, but sometimes a week or two. And usually you have airfare included in that. So, because they're usually in Europe, because they rent out entire castles, and the production value is extremely high. Like, you are like basically on a movie set.
Pretty
like
much.
Everything, like you won't see like little handmade shields like this.
No.
Sometimes they even provide costuming for you. Like, they will dress you up in like a massive ball gown, or give you full plate mail armor, or dress you up like The Witcher. You get a character assigned to you, you get a costume assigned to you, and then you LARP straight up for like a week.
Yeah.
Super high immersion, super high production value. Everyone takes it pretty seriously. It's almost like they're literally like acting out a movie without having the film cameras present.
We don't have a lot of Blockbuster LARPs in America. I've been
No.
to one that was Kickstarted, and the one I went to, it was like $300 for the Kickstarter. I'm not going to judge it too hard for its first event, but I've not gone back. But I did get a sword out of it, and some clothing and some costuming, which is cool. And it was also at a winery, so I got lots of meat out of it, which I made it.
They're usually not for me, just because I prefer to make my own character.
Yeah.
Like, I like to make my own character and roleplay as my character. For me, getting a character assigned to me just, I don't like it, because like, what if I don't vibe with the character?
I feel that. For that one, I didn't get to assign character. I just got factions, which is cool. But Blockbuster LARPs I would not start out with. It'd be something I'd do a lot of research on after you find out whether you like LARPing. There's also one called Bicoline, I think. That's more like loose.
No, Bicoline is in Montreal, in Canada. It lasts. It's like half Ren Faire, half LARP.
It is.
Because
It's
literally
LARP-like.
it lasts like 2 or 3 weeks, like solidly 2 or 3 weeks, and it is full contact medieval, and you have to be historically accurate. So it's
Yes.
hardcore.
It
Like-
is hardcore.
Like, if you seek out those hardcore experiences, there's LARPs out there for you.
Absolutely.
I don't have $1,000 to
Yeah.
spend on LARP.
But I do have friends that do it, that love it, that keep trying to figure me out. But one day, that's the end goal for me.
I would rather hit my friends with my
You watch
trash
friends.
phone, sword, and run around in a garbage bag.
Yeah, that's fair. Like we said, any LARP that you won't think of, there's probably one for you. You just gotta do a little research, ask questions. I guarantee the staff will love new players, and if they don't, that's just a warning sign that's probably not a good LARP. I'm gonna be real. If they don't want new players, I don't want to be with them.
A friend of mine went to a LARP in California that sounded truly unhinged. It's a superhero LARP,
Oh.
and
Oh, no.
you just, whatever, you can literally pick any power. You can do anything.
That sounds
Well-
You can pick any power.